All right, so we are working on solving. My handwriting on this is atrocious because I have to hover and it's just not pretty. So solving two-step equations. And it's really what our jump start was. So as just a blip review, okay, the assignment we just finished was one-step equations. So you're either going to add or subtract to get your variable alone, or this is with one step, okay? This is kind of a review. This is with one-step equations. Add, subtract, or multiply and divide to get your variable alone. So an example of an add or subtract would be from our homework where we had, what did we have? We had a minus 18 equals negative 8. Okay, this is an example of a one-step equation because you always look and see where's your variable, what are you trying to get by itself, and then you have to ask yourself what's on the same side, right? Remember our scale. What's on the same side of the equation as my a that I need to get off of that side because I want to get my a by itself? And in this case, the answer is that negative 18. So I can add 18 and add 18. And when I do that, my negative 18 and positive 18 cancel each other out, leaving my a by itself. Good, that's what we wanted. And then on the right side of the equation, I had negative 8. I added 18, so I get a positive 10. Okay, that's an example of a one-step equation where you add or subtract. I'm going to do two examples for the multiply and divide because I want to show you both examples. So let's do a multiplication one first. If we have 5x equals 55, okay, again, find your variable. What is it you're trying to get by itself, right? The answer is this x. And then you got to ask yourself what's attached and how's it attached? Well, the 5 is attached to it, and it's attached with multiplication. We don't see the multiplication sign, but it's there. And so the opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide this side by 5. Whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I always do to the other, so I'm going to divide the other side by 5. 5 and 5 reduce to 1, leaving my x by itself, which is what I wanted. And then 55 divided by 5 is 11. Okay, so that's an example of a multiplication one-step equation. Now let's look at a division one. So let's say I have, we'll use D. So if I have D over 8 equals 3. Okay, I purposely didn't put any like this on the worksheet because I wasn't sure if you guys had seen this before or knew what to do, and I wanted to wait and actually talk with you through it before I threw it at you on a worksheet when I wasn't going to be here. So you have to ask yourself what's attached to the variable. Well, in this case, it's that 8, but it's part of a division problem. So what is the opposite of division? Multiplication. So that means that I'm going to multiply. Now remember, if I do it to one side, I do it to both. That D right now is really 1 over D. Can everybody agree with that? There's really a 1 here that we never see. Well, in order to get rid of a fraction, you multiply by its reciprocal. So I would multiply by 8 over 1. And again, on this side, 8 over 1. And when I do that, when you cross reduce, this 8 outside and the 8 in the bottom of my fraction cancel out to a 1, leaving me what on the left? Leaving me my variable, right? Which is what I wanted. And since I multiplied the left side by 8, or 8 over 1, but really that's 8, then I multiply the other side by 8, and 3 times 8 is 24. And you should be able to check your answer to see if you're right. If I plug a 24 in where my D was, that would be 24 over 8 equals 3. Is 24 divided by 8 3? It is, so 3 equals 3. So it checks out that 24 is the right answer. So when you find yourself with a variable in the top of a fraction, all you have to do is multiply by the denominator. They cancel out, leaving your variable alone, and you just have to remember whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Okay? All right, so now those are a couple of review about one-step equations. So now let's move on to two-step equations. So I'm going to get rid of this. Whoa. And now we're going to actually go into solving two-step equations. All right, with two-step equations, okay, first of all, you want to, there's some steps to it, and we're going to ignore the first step today because we're really not going to deal with that. But the first thing you want to do, you guys are going to write these steps down, is you're going to distribute if there's anything to distribute. Okay, distribute. And if there's any powers to deal with, you're going to deal with powers. And then 3, I'm trying to think how to say this. You want to go with as far away, once you're done with distributing in powers, you want to go as far away from your variable and move in closer. So kind of like with the one on the board, 5x minus 3. The 5 and the x are right next to each other, right? They're touching. You're not going to do that first. You got to get that -3. It's kind of hanging out there. I said it's kind of easy to break off. It's also the one that's furthest away from the x as far as it's separated by a sign. So you want to break off or move. I'll say move, but really it's not moving. It's adding and subtracting. But you want to move, okay, by addition or subtraction. So you want to get everything that's kind of furthest away from the variable first, and then little by little you move yourself closer and closer to that variable. And then the last step is to multiply or divide the last little bit away from it. Okay? And once everybody has those 4 steps written down, we'll do a couple of examples. And we're going to, for today, we're going to skip distribution and power problems. We'll kind of look at those next week. So for today, we're just going to have like our jump start was. So if I have this example, okay, this is the first example I want you to write in your notes. If I have, let's see, 3x minus 2 equals 13. The 3 and the x are more tightly connected, right? Because they're multiplied. So I'm going to ignore that for now, and I'm going to go with what is easiest to snap off or break off, which is that -2 dangling out there. And again, right, always remember your equal sign is your scale balancing. So what would I move first? Yeah, and how would I move that from the left? Yeah, because it's currently a -2, I would do +2, and again, on the other side of the equal sign, I'm going to keep it even. I'm going to do a +2 over there as well. That leaves me 3x equals, and then 13 plus 2 is 15. And then what? Good. Divide by 3 and divide by 3. And the 3 and the 3 reduce to 1, leaving my x by itself over there, and then 15 divided by 3 is 5. So my answer would be x equals 5. Okay. Let's see. Let's erase this. And we'll do another example here. All right, example number 2. Let's do x over 8. Oh, nope. Minus 3 equals -6. All right. Again, think of your equal sign as that scale, or that where we got to keep it even. What are we going to move first? Montana, what do you think? Yeah, and it's a -3, so how would I move it? Good, so I'm going to add 3, and I'm going to add 3. And when I do that, the -3 and the +3 go away, and I'm left with x over 8 equals, and then what am I left with on the other side? Good, -3, because -6 and +3, the signs are different, so we subtract and take the sign of the bigger. Bryce, what's next? Good. Yep, multiply everything by 8 over 1, or 8 if you want to get lazy. And the reason we multiply by 8 is because we want the upper 8 and the lower 8 to reduce to 1, leaving our x by itself. And then what do we have on the right? Negative 24. Perfect. Beautiful. Not too bad. So two-step equations just means there's two things to do to get the variable by itself instead of just one thing to do. And for today, we're just going to deal with addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then starting Monday, we'll throw a few more complicated ones at you where there's some brackets or some parentheses where you got to distribute first and all that good stuff. But it won't make it too much harder, I promise. All right, everybody got that? All right. That's all I've got as far as notes. So for today, you want to just make sure you get the assignment from yesterday done, the add, subtract integers, and solving one-step equations. And then any Khan Academies that you haven't got done, you want to work on those. And that's all I got. Email me if you have any questions for those of you at home.